Well, hey, welcome to episode dos.
I knew you were going to do that. I literally mentally was preparing for that. Episode 2, TWO.
Deuces. No? Welcome to episode 2 of Off the Fence. Not off the rails, if you know what I'm talking about. Huh? Yeah? All right.
I love you so much.
Welcome to episode 2. We are, this is Katy, my bride.
Mm-hmm. Hi, friends.
And my name is David, and our heart is this, is you don't want to live a life that is lukewarm, apathetic, or even the inner quandary and dialogue that goes on of worry and like, I should be, maybe I should, I don't know how to, and that can be, I think, absolutely paralyzing. When you need to make a decision, you need to do something that you've been prompted to do.
Yes.
You need to make a change. You need to do something healthier, better with your life, but you just stay on the fence. And the heart of this podcast is just that. That's help. So episode 2, if you want to save this, because this is going to be crucial. The reason we're going to do this episode 2 is there is a values-based system that, and I hate to use the word system. I mean, it's so like, I have this system to
They're
make you
anchors.
wealthy.
But they're I would say they're anchors.
But like this
The
value-based approach to how to make sure that you either get off the fence or stay off the fence. There is a way that's not so specific to an event that you're in. There are values that you can check. You could evaluate this daily, weekly, monthly, whatever. Say, am I doing these things? And if the answer is yes, you will actually be off the fence about whatever you're trying to do. Hopefully that God's led you to do, an opportunity around your relationships, even as if you're married, if you're dating, if you're parenting, if you're leading something, whatever, this should help. And so this episode is dedicated to the values that we can live by. So
Awesome.
Let's start. There's 3 ones.
Yes.
There's 3 ones. Is that even a sentence?
No, but I knew what you meant. I translate
The 3 ones?
as you're talking.
All right.
There are 3.
There are 3, which the
Core
first one
values.
would be
Unconditional love.
unconditional love. So
Do you want to say all 3 first, and then we can dive into each one?
we could, if
I'm just a note taker, so I think if you give them the spoiler alert, they can be prepared.
I think that's very fair and helps me in my communication. Thank you, dear, for this.
I just know how I work, and I take notes.
Okay, so there are 3. You can say them in 2 different ways.
You can, but I think the full and then the shortened version. I think
Unconditional
both are great.
love.
Yep.
It's a value. Irrational generosity is a value. And unwavering mission is a value. If you take notes, write that down. Unconditional love, irrational generosity, unwavering mission, or
Love, give, go.
love, give, go.
Love, give, go.
If you're like, okay, help me remember. Love, give, go. Love well, give well, and go do what you are supposed to do.
And do it well.
Oh, yeah. So, reminds me of a good R&B song that I grew up with. No.
Love you.
Doing it. No. Okay, anyways. So, let's talk about unconditional love. Am I not allowed to?
I don't know what song it is, and I just want to make sure.
I may not be allowed to be a pastor anymore if I continue that song.
I don't know R&B. Country was like the only station we got where I came from, so I just don't know any other songs.
So, there is a story that Jesus tells.
Yes.
And it's loaded in a chapter that's full of 3 different stories of something that was lost and how people went to go about finding it. The last one in that chapter, the story, Jesus tells a story about a son and a dad having an interaction where the son's like, I'd like my inheritance, Dad, and I get early. Basically, the son screws that whole thing up. We've all probably had conversations with our parents that we've screwed up, where we've looked back and we were wrong. And that's this case. So Jesus paints this picture, this story of son screws things up, finds himself wanting to come home. We picked the story up where Jesus is wanting to help us understand, how do I approach life? And so the son comes back. The father's response over and over and over again is where we gather these values. Right? So unconditional love. Father sees his son coming. Son's loaded with this like statement, hey, I've sinned against you. I've sinned against God. I've come to be your servant. I've come to just work for you. You're not even my dad anymore. I no longer deserve to be called your son.
I accept my punishment.
Right.
Yeah.
Like I am going to live the rest of my life in shame, but I need a job because I need food and shelter. The father's response doesn't even, give room for that. And the father's like, hey, I'm just going to hug you.
Yes.
I'm going to give you a kiss. And that's the profound unconditional love. I mean, the father was mistreated. I don't know, today's cultural terms, the father's the victim here.
Yeah.
The father is the one who's been wronged, been screwed over, received the unfair repercussions of someone's actions.
Because not only did he give the son what he wanted financially, but he also lost a partner in business. I think about that a lot, that the son was there doing work and helping, and then he just left. And so there's just layers of stuff.
I imagine the defeat there. Like, so we're in an interesting parenting stage.
We have a lot of parenting stages right now.
We were joking the other day about how we literally right now, as this is being captured, we have a high schooler who happens to be a senior. We have a middle schooler who happens to be a girl.
Middle school is hard for everybody, but middle school is hard for girls.
We have an elementary student,
Yep.
A son who, by and large, hates the idea of sitting in a chair.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
He likes to go explore and learn outside.
Doesn't hate learning.
No, he loves learning.
Hates being in a chair. And then we have Bo, the 2-year-old adventurer. Fireball.
Yeah.
If you've ever seen the movie Incredibles.
Jack.
We just call him Bobo.
That's so funny.
Anyways, back to what we were talking about, unconditional love. What was I going after there? What?
We were talking about how the father, he was losing like a helpmate, like a worker, a partner.
So, okay, what I was about to tell you was how gut-wrenching and heart-wrenching or whatever that would have been to be raising these kids that we're raising, and then preemptively, outside of our design plan for them, all of a sudden one of them comes to us and says, I want what's coming to me later after you die, basically. And I want it now, and I'm not only going to do that, I'm going to go waste it. I'm literally going to go blow it.
Yeah.
That would have destroyed me over and over and over again.
Yeah.
And so Jesus tells the story of not only that happening and the gut-wrenching part of that, but now the son comes back, shows his face, ready to say, here's what I did. I screwed up. And so that's where our value is. If you want to get off the fence, the father's approach to the son is your evidence, but not only your evidence, it's a part of your compass that you're assembling on how to do life. And to do life well, to stay off the fence, you need in your tool chest your makeup drawer. You see what I did there?
I do.
What do girls have?
Girls
have toolboxes, I should say.
Every girl, I have a toolbox. I don't know. Mine, I'm a nerd who loves organization, so mine would be like my planner drawer.
What you need in your planner
drawer? I don't really have
a
makeup drawer. I don't wear that much makeup.
Yeah, that's true. What you need is unconditional love. So right now, everyone needs to be thinking about, if I'm going to be off the fence, do I have unconditional love as a part of my value system?
And not just saying it. I think the active verb about unconditional love is that the father ran to the son. He met him. He didn't wait for him to come and go, oh, that guy's coming back. He pursued him. He met him there with intention, because we know culturally what that could have meant if he didn't. But he ran to the person that hurt him. Now
this screws things up, and I'll address it right off the bat. Is immediately someone right now is like, unconditional love. Well, what about so and so in my life who is mean, or is abusive?
And we have those stories in our own lives,
right?
Of that, where you have to wrestle through that. I think though the value of unconditional love doesn't look the same. It's not played out in every scenario the same way. It's more of the work that the Lord is doing in our hearts too, that allows us the freedom to be able to, whether it's in near proximity running to them or just resolving to love apart.
Well, see, this is the kicker. This is why it's not only what Jesus says in the story, but what he doesn't say. And here's what he doesn't say. This is not a part of the story. What's not a part of the story is as soon as the son leaves, the father doesn't trust him and begins to hunt after his son, making sure that his son is doing all that he should be doing and managing that money the way he should be managing it. No, that's not in the story. The storyline is what leads the restoration is the repentance of the son.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Which shows you there's some heart there going, I am not here to manipulate you anymore. Boss, not calling him dad, but I'm not here to manipulate you anymore. I'm not here to abuse you anymore. I'm not here to shame you anymore. By returning it and basically saying, I'm going to work for you. That gives us evidence on how do we give, because I know some people are like, unconditional love, but I mean, guys, don't you, this person, they're not sorry for what they did. They continue to do it. Well, unconditional love in that specific of an arena is more of dealing with bitterness. And here's what I mean by that. If that person were to stop their manipulation, if that person were to stop their abuse, if that person were to stop their toxic behavior, would you allow them to? And I think that's where unconditional love is. If you will engage a relationship, I'll engage it. You don't have to be best buds anymore. You don't have to be super close. There doesn't have to be trust. But unconditional love is basically a refusal to remove a person's value out of the equation. And when we get hurt, oh my goodness, when we get hurt, one of the things that we think we want to remove from that person is value. We want to say that person is no longer valuable to me.
Because that's how they made us feel. Absolutely.
They took our value.
Right.
They didn't show us our value.
Right.
So the reciprocal approach is, I'm not going to show you value. Well, if that's going to put you on the fence. And what that means is once you enter the stage of bitterness, you have just paralyzed yourself. Even more so, what makes it worse is once you refuse to forgive someone, you have actually allowed them inside of your boundaries. You've not set up healthy boundaries. You're letting what they did to you now run your decision making. And forgiveness, unconditional love, is saying, I'm not going to allow someone else's decisions. That's the unconditional part, choices, how they treat me. I'm not going to allow anyone or anything to remove value from another human being. And the Father does this so brilliantly, is how Jesus tells the story. The Father, in the midst of his hurt and his victimhood and all that kind of stuff, hugs his son and kisses him and does this gesture of, I'm sure over the months and the years from now, we've got some stuff to talk about and wrestle with, but you are valuable. That hug and that kiss was, you are a human being. You are not a dog to me.
I see you.
Yeah.
And what you've done doesn't define you or our relationship. And I think that's something that's so powerful about who the Lord says we are, remembering who we are, and who God has just made us to be and what he said about us, is that we don't let the actions of others determine who we are.
No.
And that's so powerful. The other thing as a parent that I think about always, as Jesus tells this story, is that the son came home.
Yeah.
Because that, as a parent, is something that no matter what kids have done, but even as a friend and a sister, and no matter what you've done, I want to be a safe place that you can come to. And that is who God is for us. But I love that in the story that the son knew that he could come home.
I chose this shirt on purpose. I know you love this shirt. So, sweetheart.
I like it in context.
Sweetheart, just wanted to talk to you.
Because our 8-year-old, if you said safety second, he'd be like, well, I've always wanted to jump off of the roof for fun. So if safety is second, I appreciate it in context. I don't like it out of context. That's all.
I'm petting my face with my mug.
You
How
probably
weird
shouldn't
and
drink out of
creepy
that.
is
Yeah.
that? That is just, I regret that decision right now.
You do wild things when you got a mic in front of you.
Second, because we live in this world now who thinks you should put a biosphere, you should put protection around everything, which removes it puts conditions on love.
Absolutely.
And that puts you on the fence. I'm just saying. So whether any of us listening right now or watching like this news, if you want to get off the fence, one of the first things you got to do is, who are you willing to run to and who are you not willing to run to? Because as soon as you discover that you have a list of people you're unwilling to run to because of their political beliefs, because of maybe not even necessarily pain they've caused you, they're just, you don't like them, or they're not important to you.
Maybe they're people that honk when a red light turns green right away.
You hate that.
It's one of the most awful things.
You absolutely despise that.
So then I have to go so slow. But who have you disqualified?
Yep.
Even if you don't know them and you don't know their story, and
because you can't do what God wants you to do if you are choosing that there are certain people that you won't let God take you to.
If it's conditional. Absolutely.
Exactly. So our classic example in our lives, one of the many, is, in episode 1, we talked about how basically I'm a youth pastor. You're helping out with the youth ministry. We've got parents trusting us to teach their kids the ways of life. And
point them to Jesus,
right?
Walk it out in their lives.
Teach them how to date well, purity, and we screw that up, and we basically betray quite a few people in our church the trust. And the response of the church was they ran to us.
They did.
They did not cancel us, even though we deserved to be canceled.
And even as they ran to us, I think we were still really leery of their intentions, because in our minds, we were just expecting.
Oh, for sure. You expected.
We were hey, come to our house. We have a Bible study. And we went prepared to get yelled at.
Yeah.
And I think most people do. They just like the son, as he's going home, he's rehearsing in his mind as, I'm going to just tell him I'll be a servant. I just am so hungry and I need to be there.
I think that's what Jesus, one of the things he was trying to get into our souls was some of the most profound moments are not when you're actually perfect, but it's in the midst of your imperfections and their sin. And when people are willing to run to you, Jesus got in trouble over and over for having lunch with thieves and prostitutes and the worst of the worst. Yeah. And it's just a sign that Jesus was willing to run to people in the midst of their sin. And we now live in a culture that cancels people in the midst of their sin. And so hear this, everyone. If you want to be off the fence, unconditional love. What does unconditional love mean? It means you're not indifferent about other human beings based on whatever they've done or not done.
Yep.
Right? Okay, so let's keep moving. Unconditional love, irrational generosity. So Jesus then tells the story. Not only does the dad hug him, kiss him, pat him on the butt and say, all right, buddy, I'm back. No, he didn't. Actually, never mind. Sports analogy, never mind. Anyways, the father then opens up party time.
Yeah.
He gets the best robe, which in that culture would have had tassels on that robe.
Would have been his.
Would have signified
closet,
not only did the father own it, but the tassels would have signified this is the family you're a part of.
Yes.
So dad's like, get him the robe, get him the best one, get him my robe, get him the ring. We know this even in not too distant history, that's how you would seal a letter with some sort of a symbol.
This is who I am.
Yeah, this is who I am. And sandals, take care of your feet, right? And then obviously the party, which was an act of restoration.
Yes.
They killed a cow, which, again, beef.
Yes.
It's what's for
We
dinner.
just had hamburgers last night. They were so good.
Man, if we could have just beef for the rest of our lives all the time.
I mean, we can, just not every meal.
Yeah. My heart, I don't think would be.
No.
Anyways, so irrational generosity, meaning all of us have had someone say, I love you. And then their actions didn't back it up. Their words articulated it beautifully, right?
Made a nice poem or a song.
Right. Or
Hallmark
I think
card.
a lot of times nowadays, translate it now, we posted about something that we believed or that we liked. Or on someone's birthday, we said something nice to them about them and we congratulated them or whatever. But on the fence and off the fence, you see the differentiation, not just on saying I love you, but then having generosity in your life.
Being intentional with walking that out.
Yeah. So terminology we use all the time. We've used it with the kids. Now it's in our church and going out beyond that is get away from zero.
Yeah.
So not only do you say I'm not going to be indifferent about human beings. Everyone I come into contact with is going to have value. But then you have to look at, so, okay, now get outside of your head.
Yeah.
Start using your hands and your feet. And get away from zero regarding the investment in that person's life. You are absolutely brilliant at this.
Oh, thanks.
You are. In fact, here.
It's my favorite one because it's the I think being a teacher, but also just in the family that I grew up in, it was like saying I'm going to go do the chores, for instance, like feeding the pigs, and then doing that were two different things. But your word is only as good as your actions, what you do. And that was just a big deal growing up. But even as a teacher, I could lead them through a study, but that didn't tell me what kind of a teacher I was. It was how well did they retain it and apply it. Yeah. And I think application is the depth of knowledge. And so I love all of them, but irrational generosity is my very favorite because it's the feet under the words.
It's borderline as your husband annoying because it's so challenging.
Oh.
Like, I want to say that I love people and care about people, but then I watch you do it and I'm like, yeah, I think I'm like doing more ideals in my head and lip service. So here, tell everybody, I mean, everyone's going to want to be our neighbor or something now, but like the Bible says, love your neighbor.
They do. Yeah, it does. All over, many throughout the Bible.
Love your neighbor.
Yeah.
And so it's like, cool. I'll sponsor a kid in Africa. And that's good. That's good. Not bad. But the majority, and this is non-scientific, let me make an assumption. Let me take a little drink here. The assumption that most of us have is that we get to choose who we want to be our neighbors. You literally love our neighbors, like our physical neighbors. Tell people what you do.
I do. Well, I think a lot of that is growing up on a dirt road where I want to know who the people are around me because we're going to need them. That family has the plow for the snow. We have the hay that we let people bale. Like everybody works together out in a rural. I mean, that happens in town too. But I just grew up knowing my neighbors and making sure they knew me so that when something was needed, we were a safe place that they could come to and connect with. Not just sugar for cookies or something, but genuine needs that we were living in community together. And there, again, in a rural setting, it's often an essential because you may not be able to get to town for days if there was snow or something. And so one of the things that I try really hard to do is I want to know who we live by, not only for maybe we won't be home one day and the kids need something. And if I say to them, well, we'll be home in 2 hours from wherever we are, I think being intentional about making sure that they know that we see them and that we're being intentional about knowing them and valuing them. And so it started actually 6 or 7 years ago when we moved into Rapid City and I wanted to know who they were. So I brought gifts by each house. We just got some really great local gifts, put them in a basket and went around and said, hi, we live over here. We're so grateful to be here. And we just want you to know, here's our numbers if you ever need anything. Initially, I think it was a shock. And a lot of people thought we were probably selling
for sure
something.
They're like,
and so,
what are you doing here?
So I don't think I
what
had
do you want?
one.
They're probably literally going, what do you want?
Yeah, what do you want? We're like life is busy and things are happening. And so the first time is actually really funny because I think Titus tagged along with me and we just walked up and down the road and brought baskets and had a little wagon. But I think, so I don't know that even one person opened the door.
I love though that you're doing that. You're teaching our kids.
Yeah.
You know your neighbors.
Yeah.
This is a part of life that looking beyond just the accidental, that's who lives there, to maybe God has us all together for some reason. We got to know each other.
Well, and I think for that, a lot of that initial part is the unconditional love, where we're saying, I see you and you matter to me. And even if you are not interested in getting to know me, I want you to know that it's important to our family that we know you, because we're going to have your names. I want to know who you are, who lives here. And we're going to be praying for you, and we're going to wave to you when we see you. The irrational generosity part is walking that out when something is needed. One of our neighbors needed to borrow a bike. They have family in town. They needed to borrow a bike. And she asked me, she reached out yesterday and said, can we borrow a bike? Because we have family here. And that, I think, that's the walking out of, I didn't just say, we see you and we love you, but we want to just know you and be able to help each other. That's important to us. And, it's one of my favorite things, because for me, it's the action, it's the movement of the words that I say.
Well, it's built in you. And one of our episodes, we'll talk about the Enneagram, and you are the definition of a 2.
The good and the bad.
The good and the bad of a 2. Some people hate the Enneagram, but I think it's got some helpful.
It's
things.
insightful.
Yeah. So you have a sense of that a part of justice in your mind is that you not only say something, but do something to back up what you have said. And that's why getting off the fence, that's why we're spending this whole episode on the value system, because the people that we interview, I'm going to tell you, we will be able to extract from them these values.
Yes.
They may not have known it,
yes,
but here are the values that helped you stay off the fence or go off the fence on what you're doing. Love, give, go. And we'll be able to find those. That's why we're spending this episode on defining this stuff. So you are really good at this, like crazy good at this. So give someone a tip. What's something practical? If someone's going, well, I want to be generous. I want to be irrationally generous. Give them an idea. I'm putting you on the spot right now.
No, you are, but it's fine, because I talk about this all the time, because it doesn't always have to have a financial value. I love buying presents. We actually have a line item in our budget because of my passion.
We do.
For not just knowing people.
And for Starbucks.
And for coffee in general. I go to coffee places with drive-thrus. You know that.
Starbucks.
Even it's ministry.
So
I think one of the things that is important to me is that it's about seeing someone and then just leaning into someone. And that's with time. One of my favorite things to do is write notes. Every week I get a stack of cards, put a stamp on it, put an address label on it. And then I just pray and say, Lord, who can I encourage this week? And that to me is an act of unconditional love and irrational generosity, because it's time and effort. I think seeing people, one of the most incredible things about Jesus, one of the many most incredible things about Jesus, is how he met people where they were and he saw them. And he didn't just see them and go, oh yeah, I see them. He let them know, I see you, you matter. And so I would say actually right now for the season I'm in and what I've just learned so much is listening to people. So we have a friend that I know loves the brand called Lily Pulitzer. So when I want to just Lily Pulitzer, it's like a girl
Pulitzer Prize.
Kind of, yeah. I think it might be spelled that way.
Pulitzer.
So I know though that I listened to her and I recognize that she loved that. So the next time I want to get her something, I'm going to get her that because it's just seeing people and paying attention. But it doesn't have to be just buying gifts. It could be writing a note that says, I'm so grateful for you, and here's why. Here's some specific ways. But generosity with encouragement and generosity with your time or the way that you just lean in. I think it doesn't have to cost money, but it does need to be intentional, and it costs you something because of the time and the effort that you're giving.
It's so simple but profound. So a way to love and give is to listen, but not just listen, pay attention.
Pay attention.
And do something about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. All right, third one. Do you know what the third one is?
Yes.
Love, give.
Go. Unwavering mission, which is also my favorite. They're all my favorite.
Oh, I thought I was your favorite.
You are. I have all the favorites. These are my favorite anchor
It's not
points.
helping. All the favorites.
I know. Do you know what's funny as we talk about this though is this is how we've been leading our family. The Lord really has invited us to walk this out in our family as a mission. Yeah. So it's actually fun to talk about just through that context too.
I'm telling you, love, give, go is applicable to a high school student right now, a dating couple, someone starting a business, obviously parenting, blah, blah, blah. These values, it helps you live life in that current that God wants you in. Because God's going to want to take you places and use you and utilize you and leverage your value system. And this value system is why it's so incredible. I'm not trying to sell it. We get nothing from this.
No.
The full life, literally the full life, is lived when you've got these values active.
From Scripture.
Yeah.
It's also just the power and presence of the Word of God being activated in your life, which is so critical.
So the go or the unwavering mission.
Yeah.
I've been telling you can tell where do we get the unwavering mission?
So the end of the story, I often feel like the older brother because I'm just a person that likes to do what's right. And then I'm like, hey, this is an area that the Lord has really challenged me in from childhood, actually. But when the older son goes, hey, wait a second, I've been here this whole time. I haven't taken my money that is due me. And I've been here helping you and picking up the slack for that guy. And here you are throwing a party when you've never even let my friends and I have even a goat, for dinner.
Which I've had goat fried intestine. It's actually not near as bad as it sounds.
And you were
Fun fact.
You were with friends.
It was.
New friends in Africa. So that was a party. It was awesome. And the father said, no, we had to. He didn't say, oh, you're right, but listen, we just want him to, come back and whatever. He said, no, we had to because he was lost and now he's found. The father, and we say this a lot, he was unoffendable. He wasn't concerned or overwhelmed by all the things that had been wrong to him. That's for another day. Yep. But we're going to remember, I'm the father. I have to do this because we have to celebrate that he was not here. He was missing, and we were grieving that. And now he's back, so we celebrate. And we remind him who he is, and we remember who we are. And that commitment, it's really like predetermining what you're going to do when bad things happen. That's what love, give, go really is for us, I know, is being rooted in something that helps us not waver when the hard stuff comes.
It's a submissive attitude that because when you say I have to, you're like, well, I mean, aren't you your own person? Right. I mean, can't you do whatever you want to do? I mean, and it's this, well, if you have to, well, who's making you have to? And we live in a culture now, it's like, no, do your own thing, your own way. You take your own route, your own road. Yeah. And I would tell you that's on the fence kind of lifestyle because then you are your own God. And
it's so subjective, and it changes with whatever scenario. So then you've got that whole complicated situation, yeah. And I think too, because when Jesus is talking, the Father in the story is God. Yeah. And it also is a reminder that these are the values that God holds, that he's unconditionally loving to us and so generous to us and never leaves us and forgets us.
Spot on.
He celebrates when we come home. And so what a better way to live your life than walking out all of the characteristics of the Lord.
So the dad says to the older son, saying, we have to do this. We
have to.
Which is because we follow a code.
Yeah.
We have a code in this family. And the code is when you're lost and you're found, that's a big deal. And that's actually a priority. So we as a family have talked about regularly that we have a mission as a family. It just happens to have leaked over to the church. Yeah. But our mission is to show people who Jesus is. That we think that's what being a Christian is.
Yes.
But so we have to, when we do certain things, we say, we have to do this. Because we are submitted under the authority of God, our creator. And the danger in today's world, we have so many people on the fence because they're living preference-based, personal-based, so there is no code. There is no, and we find people all the time who like, well, I went this direction and I thought it was right, and it was more preference than convictional. So when you're going to live a life off the fence, love, give, go. This unconditional love, I'm going to run to people. This irrational generosity, I'm going to get away from zero. I'm going to move from nothing to something. But then this unwavering mission where there is something I am about.
Yeah. that I do not allow to be changed and moved. I think one of the things that you've told me in the past that we've talked to our kids about it is resolve to be unoffendable. Remembering who you are in God, rooting yourself in that. And the Father chose not to lead with the offense, and remembering that he was dad and his role as dad. And I think as believers, knowing that often people do things out of hurt or out of frustration, or a lot of the wounds that we have are not often even about us.
Right.
And being able to reflect Jesus and bring the Lord back into that conversation requires us to not get butthurt about everything that happens to us. It's not living a life going, well, you did that to me and you did that to me. It's leaning in. And that's hard and messy. It is.
The whole thing is risky. It's why our kids have stories of getting their feelings hurt.
Yeah.
Our kids have stories of not being able to do multiple things that they wanted to do. All they had to choose some things they would do. Mm-hmm. It's why you and I, we had to leave friends we loved when we moved. We had to leave. We're not close to family.
Not at all. No.
All those things that we don't sit and lament at all, but there's a cost to this, there's a risk. Safety second. It's not that safety is irrelevant. It's just not primary. And I think if you're on the fence, we get safe about love, we get safe about generosity, and we get safe about our mission. That's why I wore the T-shirt. And
you have the mug.
You know the ironic thing about the mug?
Do you have socks that say safety
No,
second?
I don't.
Okay.
I don't. My underwear might. You no? Anyways, the ironic thing is this mug, I mean, you guys probably can't see this, but it's cracked there.
It's been super glued.
It's been super glued. This handle has been super glued, which makes this mug even more unsafe because Bo decided that it should be a projectile.
Well, he actually, the first time I think he broke it, there was a remote control truck, and he put it on the counter and drove it on the counter, and then the cup was in the way.
And because I love him, he is still welcome in our family.
Yeah.
It's two. Okay. So episode 2 now has helped us see, hopefully, why we think intentional approaches to getting off the fence are necessary. So this whole podcast is designed not only just to know Katy and I, episode 1, episode 2, here's the system used. Now we're going to get running and rolling.
Yeah, good.
And the episodes that follow,
ready.
I hope everyone will tune in, from stories that we'll be able to talk about, subjects that we'll be able to talk about. Again, just to remind people, we'll talk about forgiveness. We'll talk about health. Katy and I have our own journey of health stuff. We'll talk about family. We'll talk about parenting, marriage, dating.
Friending well.
Friending well as adults.
Yeah.
Most adults, I think, if they have friends, they're like from high school.
Well,
if they've not done it well, is what I'm saying. Sorry.
There's just so much that you're already carrying that kind of gets thrown to the back.
So here's what I want. If you're watching, listening, whatever, I would love for you guys to let us know in the comments section. One, is this resonating with you? But 2, give us ideas if you want ideas, to just let us know about how to do this. Probably we should have an email address if people want to email. Ooh, they could text me.
They can. Do you remember your number? It's always hard to remember your own number.
605-250-1224.
It's impressive.
605-250-1224. You can text me. It'll send you through a bit of a spam system. Make sure you're not spamming. But 605-250-1224. Text us ideas of what you might be on the fence about. You can confess. I'm not going to be like, hey, Sarah from Seattle says that she's on the fence about her marriage. No, I'm not going to say that. But we'll take the topics and we'll make sure that we go after it. We'll have guests that will even who are experts in some of these areas and who have also gone off the fence, not off the rails with life. And so thanks for listening to us talk about the value system to live the rest of your entire life with. We love you guys very much.